Before haute couture, before silk or cotton, humans faced a survival challenge that would spark the first fashion revolution. And it didn't just keep them warm, it shaped identity, status, and even power. Imagine scraping hides, softening furs, and turning raw materials into wearable art. This is where style and survival collided for the very first time. Early humans lived in a world dominated by harsh climates, dangerous predators, and unforgiving terrain. And clothing was no longer just an option, it was a necessity. Every layer, every hide, every fur was carefully chosen for warmth, durability, and mobility, and the process of creating these first garments was painstaking and time-consuming. Animal skins were stripped, cleaned, and softened with oils and fats to make them flexible, while plant fibers were twisted and woven into rudimentary fabrics that could be tied, draped, or wrapped around the body. Yet, practicality was only one part of the story. Humans quickly realized that clothing could communicate information, whether about tribe, skill, or social rank. Decorations were added using shells, bones, feathers, and pigments extracted from minerals and plants, signaling achievements, roles, or affiliations within the group. In this early society, a well-prepared garment could mean the difference between survival and death. And those who mastered the techniques of clothing production gained not only protection, but prestige. Observation played a crucial role in innovation. Early humans watched animals to understand insulation and movement, mimicking layering strategies and adapting fur and feather combinations to different climates. Migration across frozen tundras, dense forests, and arid plains required clothing that was both versatile and durable. And over generations, these primitive artisans experimented tirelessly with textures, patterns, and methods of joining materials. They discovered that sinews and tendons could bind hides, thorns and bone fragments could pierce leather, and repetitive rubbing and soaking could soften fibers, turning rigid raw materials into wearable garments. Knowledge of materials became invaluable. Some hides resisted cold but were brittle, while others absorbed water and became heavy. Some plant fibers were soft but tore easily. This early experimentation laid the foundation for the first technological advancements in clothing. Beyond survival, clothing became a medium of identity. Tribes distinguished themselves through patterns, colors, and embellishments. Certain designs might indicate a hunter's skill, a warrior's bravery, or an elder's wisdom. Colors derived from ochre, charcoal, or berries were applied not just for decoration, but for symbolism, storytelling, and social signaling. Rituals often intertwined with clothing. Wearing specific furs or feathers during ceremonies was believed to channel protection, strength, or ancestral blessings. The act of dressing was both functional and symbolic, reinforcing cohesion and hierarchy within the group. Social roles began to emerge around clothing. Some individuals specialized in tanning hides, others in weaving fibers, and some in applying pigments and creating patterns. This division of labor not only accelerated technological innovation, but also established the earliest forms of craftsmanship and trade, as tribes would exchange materials and techniques. Clothing also influenced movement and hunting strategies. Layering allowed humans to survive in extreme cold, while stripped and flexible garments enabled stealth and agility during hunts. Protection from sun, insects, and abrasion improved endurance, allowing humans to explore new terrains and expand their range. Observation, experimentation, and adaptation were continuous. A garment that worked in one environment might be modified or abandoned in another, creating a dynamic evolution of style and function. Over time, the act of creating and wearing clothing became embedded in cultural memory. Knowledge passed from elders to younger members. Stories explained the origin of specific patterns, and rituals ensured that skills survived across generations. These practices shaped not only survival but social structure, artistry, and human innovation itself. The first clothing revolution was therefore more than survival. It was a profound intersection of utility, creativity, identity, and human ingenuity, laying the foundation for the diverse, complex world of fashion and personal expression that would evolve over tens of thousands of years. Every hide scraped, every fiber twisted, Every pigment applied represented lessons learned through trial, observation, and experimentation, forming an invisible thread that connected early humans to the future of human creativity and culture, proving that even in the harshest environments, necessity could inspire artistry, adaptation, and ingenuity that transcended time. As early humans became more adept at crafting their first garments, what had once been a simple necessity for warmth and protection transformed into a remarkable arena of experimentation. Ingenuity and social expression, where every layer, every hide, and every woven fiber carried both function and meaning. The process of creating clothing was laborious and required careful observation, patience, and an intimate understanding of the natural world, as humans learned to select the right animal hides based on thickness, durability, and insulation properties, while plant fibers were gathered, twisted, and woven into rudimentary textiles that could be adapted to different climates, mobility needs, and social functions. Pigments derived from minerals, clays, berries, and charcoal were applied to skins and fibers, not merely for decoration but to convey identity, achievements, tribal affiliation, and even spiritual beliefs, creating the earliest form of visual language through clothing. Humans observed the behavior of animals for insights, noting how fur and feather layers provided warmth, protection, and camouflage, and applied these lessons to their garments, layering hides or combining plant and animal materials to create multifunctional attire that enhanced survival in extreme cold, blistering heat, and treacherous terrain. Every technique from scraping and tanning hides to softening, stretching and stitching required skill and experimentation, and over generations, these techniques were refined, passed down, and augmented through trial and error, forming the foundation of early textile craftsmanship. Clothing was not only a tool for survival but also a medium for storytelling and cultural transmission. Specific patterns and decorations told tales of hunts, victories, rites of passage, ancestral knowledge, or spiritual connection, and wearing these garments reinforced one's role, status, and place within the tribe. Children learned by observing elders, tracing patterns, practicing knots and bindings, and slowly internalizing the intricate knowledge of material selection, garment construction, and symbolic embellishment, ensuring continuity and evolution of these essential skills. Seasonal migration and environmental pressures drove further innovation. Garments needed to adapt to frozen tundras, dense forests, wetlands, and sun-scorched plains, demanding flexibility, breathability, insulation, and ease of movement, pushing early humans to explore layering techniques, new binding methods, and inventive ways to secure garments without modern fasteners. Trade and exchange emerged naturally as groups shared rare hides, unique pigments, or weaving techniques, spreading innovation and cultural motifs across regions, allowing designs, rituals, and practical knowledge to travel beyond a single community. Over time, clothing became deeply intertwined with identity and social hierarchy, with those possessing skillfully prepared garments, rare materials, or complex ornamentation gaining respect, influence, and even authority within their communities. Rituals and ceremonies emphasized this social significance. Special garments were worn during hunts, spiritual gatherings, seasonal celebrations, and rites of passage, enhancing courage, focus, or communal cohesion, and imbuing clothing with spiritual and psychological significance that went far beyond mere physical protection. Humans experimented endlessly with texture, pattern, and structure, learning which materials provided insulation, which resisted wear, and which allowed freedom of movement for climbing, running, and hunting. They discovered subtle techniques such as layering thin furs for added warmth without added bulk, folding plant fibers for padding, and stretching hides to create more comfortable fits, gradually mastering the principles of ergonomics long before the concept existed. Communities thrived when knowledge of materials, tools, and techniques was shared, and those who excelled in innovation often enjoyed advantages in hunting, migration, and survival, demonstrating that creativity and observation were as critical as physical strength. Beyond survival, clothing fostered cooperation, teaching patience, dexterity, and problem-solving, while simultaneously serving as a canvas for early humans to express individuality, affiliation, and artistry. Every hide scraped, every fiber woven, every pigment applied carried lessons learned through observation, experimentation, and careful imitation of the natural world, producing garments that were simultaneously functional, protective, and expressive. The interplay between practicality and aesthetics cultivated the first sense of fashion, blending necessity with culture, utility with beauty, and survival with personal and communal identity. Over centuries, clothing evolved into a complex system of social signaling, technological innovation, and environmental adaptation, with each generation adding refinements, experimenting with new materials, and passing down knowledge that would echo into the future. Stone Age humans had transformed clothing from a basic survival tool into a multidimensional medium of culture, artistry, and strategy, illustrating that even in the harshest and most unforgiving environments, human ingenuity, creativity, and adaptability could transform necessity into a profound expression of identity, social structure, and aesthetic sensibility, laying the foundation for the future of fashion, culture, and human civilization itself. Every stitch, pigment, and innovation tells the story of our ancestors' drive to survive, adapt, and express themselves, showing that fashion, at its very origins, was inseparable from life, culture, and human ingenuity. As humans continued to explore and adapt their environment, the evolution of Stone Age clothing became far more than a matter of warmth, protection, or basic survival. It transformed into a complex interplay of innovation, artistry, identity, social structure, and cultural expression, reflecting not just the ingenuity of individuals but the collective intelligence of entire communities. The garments of early humans, crafted painstakingly from animal hides, furs, feathers, bones, sinews, and woven plant fibers, became an early language through which humans could communicate status, skill, accomplishments, tribal affiliation, and even spiritual beliefs long before spoken language or formalized symbols existed. Each stitch, each pigment, each decorative element was deliberate, carrying layers of meaning that told stories about hunts, victories, rites of passage, ancestral knowledge, and encounters with the natural world. The process of clothing production itself catalyzed the development of craftsmanship and specialization, as individuals discovered specific talents in tanning hides, weaving fibers, creating pigments, and applying ornamental designs, fostering early forms of apprenticeship and intergenerational learning. Observation and experimentation were central. Humans studied the layering, insulation, and camouflage strategies of animals, noting how fur, feathers, and skins protected against cold, heat, and predators, and applied these lessons creatively, combining materials in ways that optimized warmth, mobility, and resilience in diverse climates. Seasonal migrations, environmental pressures, and encounters with new terrains demanded constant adaptation. Garments evolved to suit frozen tundras, dense forests, wetlands, rocky landscapes, and sun-scorched plains, leading to innovations in layering, binding, fastening, and even rudimentary tailoring techniques that allowed freedom of movement while providing protection. Pigments sourced from minerals, plants, and clays were applied not just for beauty, but for meaning. Red ochre, charcoal, and berry dyes created symbols of tribal affiliation, personal achievement, spiritual connection, or ceremonial importance, transforming garments into storytelling devices that carried culture, history, and identity wherever humans traveled. Social hierarchy and recognition became intertwined with clothing. Those who could skillfully prepare, decorate, or innovate garments often gained prestige, respect, and influence, while rare materials, intricate patterns, and unique embellishments became markers of status, power, and achievement. Rituals and ceremonies elevated clothing to a sacred plane. Special furs, feathers, or ornamented skins were worn during hunts, rites of passage, seasonal celebrations, and spiritual gatherings, reinforcing cohesion, instilling confidence, and channeling psychological strength. Trade networks began to emerge organically as tribes exchanged hides, pigments, feathers, beads, and weaving techniques, spreading innovation, motifs, and cultural practices across vast regions and creating the earliest evidence of cross-community collaboration and commerce. Clothing also functioned as a practical tool that shaped mobility, hunting strategies, and survival efficiency, layered furs and flexible fabrics allowed humans to endure extreme cold, escape predators, and pursue prey over long distances, while the careful placement of seams, the tension of bindings, and the arrangement of materials optimized movement, reducing fatigue and increasing resilience in hostile environments. Beyond survival, clothing became an instrument of identity and psychological empowerment. Wearing a well-crafted, decorated, or layered garment communicated skill, intelligence, and belonging, boosting confidence, strengthening social bonds, and subtly influencing group dynamics and leadership. Over generations, the continuous refinement of techniques, scraping, softening, stretching hides, weaving plant fibers, applying pigments, and combining materials laid the foundation for early textile technology, ergonomic design, and even the principles of aesthetic composition, blending utility with artistry in ways that would resonate across millennia. Storytelling, cultural memory, and education became inseparable from clothing. Patterns, pigments, and ornaments encoded myths, ancestral wisdom, hunting lessons, and societal rules, ensuring that knowledge, tradition, and innovation survived across generations. Every layer, stitch, pigment, and adornment was the result of observation, experimentation, and deliberate choice, reflecting an astonishing interplay of necessity, creativity, and cultural awareness. In essence, the first fashion revolution demonstrates that clothing in the Stone Age was not merely about survival or protection. It was a medium through which humans expressed identity, reinforced social structures, communicated knowledge, practiced artistry, and navigated complex relationships with their environment and each other. The garments of this era were simultaneously functional, symbolic, and beautiful, merging science, observation, culture, and imagination into objects that defined individuals and communities alike. From the frozen tundras to dense forests and sun-scorched plains, Stone Age humans turned raw materials into versatile, durable, and expressive attire, creating a legacy of ingenuity that echoes into the present. Every hide stretched, every fiber woven, every pigment applied, and every decorative element attached represents not only survival, but intelligence, creativity, social awareness, and the very human desire to leave a mark, to define oneself, and to connect with others. The story of this first clothing revolution is ultimately the story of humanity, a testament to the resilience, adaptability, and ingenuity of early humans who, through necessity, curiosity, and artistry, laid the foundations for culture, civilization, and the enduring human pursuit of self-expression through the clothes we wear. It reveals that even in the harshest, most unpredictable environments, humans transformed raw materials into tools of survival, identity, art, and communication, proving that fashion, from its very origin, was inseparable from life, culture, innovation, and the ongoing story of what it means to be human.